Recording in progress.
that piece comes back in towards like Common Pond.
Yeah, I'm not familiar enough with that. Yep.
I never remember seeing that street sign anyway.
Yeah, it's in a really good spot.
Yeah.
The road is.
So when that clock's right. 1 minute.
Are you the leader tonight?
What's that?
Are you the leader tonight?
I guess so.
Yeah,
Like
it's
scary,
good.
isn't it?
Same crowd tonight.
Glad my husband came home. I have sick
I
kids
guess we
tonight.
could be
Oh, do
ready.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's been so much illness.
We all set.
We are.
Welcome to the regular select board meeting, February 9th, 2026. You all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, we have item 26054, the minutes from the January 12th select board meeting. Make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the January 12th, 2026 board meeting as presented.
Second,
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
can we have a comma on $4,500?
Never.
Okay.
No.
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 26055, warrants number 29 through 32.
It's not me this time.
That is me.
Okay.
So we have 29 and 30 for a total of $524,984.98. Highlights. We had dispatch for just under 13,000. And we had literally tons of salt for just about 9,500 and 7,400. We had our RSU payment for 371,000 and change. We had Scott Horn for our plowing payment on that contract for 47,000 and change. And that was all the exciting stuff that I flagged.
We have a motion to approve.
I would approve the fiscal year 26 warrants 29 to 32 as presented.
That was 29 and 30. I didn't do all of them. I broke them up.
I'm sorry?
I said that was 29 and 30. I didn't do them all.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
that was just 29.
29 and 30 then.
Okay.
Second,
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
all right. 31 and 32 was relatively small for a total of 73,867 and 5 cents. Highlights on those. There was a payment cushion construction for brush clearing. Eric, what was that specifically for?
So that was for a trial that we had done with a different kind of mulching head. We had John do some work up on Sturtevant Hill Road to see if we could clear out that better than what we'd seen in the past, and more efficiently perhaps than with just folks on the ground with a chipper and chainsaws. So it was a bit of an experiment, and it was pretty well received. The idea is that it allows us to get farther back and higher up and just get things right down to the ground with those kind of mulching heads that are mounted on the larger excavators. And it really is a pretty, it's kind of like a forest mulcher, I guess, but it does a pretty thorough job. So we wanted to try that out.
Excellent.
Yeah.
The other highlight was just over $14,000 for literally tons more of salt.
Yes.
And that was all that I saw that I thought was exciting.
I would move FY 26 warrants 31 and 32 be approved as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. 2, communications. Does any members of the select board have anything they'd like to share with the public? Any goal check-ins from our retreat goals? Anything to share? Nope. All right, moving on to staff communications. I'll hand it off to Eric, the town manager, treasurer reports.
All right, thanks, Dave. This is a little bit longer because it's been about a month, so I got a few things to outline here. But I'll start with administration and say that employee evaluations are nearly complete. I have just a few part-timers to catch up with, and I'll be done with that process, which is a relief. But it's also it was fairly easy. Everybody, for the most part, has done exceptionally well. So it did go pretty quickly. We're also initiating the town manager review process, and we're looking for feedback from the public through the end of this week. And so if anybody has any comments, feel free to send them to Jaren. I couldn't remember who we tagged for that, but it's Jaren. And there's also a link on the town website. So we have made full-time hires for both the transfer station and maintenance general service positions. Brad Russell, who is a Readfield resident, is working with Matt in maintenance, and he started full-time today, so that was exciting for us. And we also have Edward Mithil from Livermore Falls. He joined the transfer station team. And with these hires, we are effectively fully staffed for those areas, and that's fantastic. Now we can look forward to trying to figure out, spring and summer, those extra hands that are so helpful in getting the maintenance work done. The other item I have is Angelica Pittman will be transitioning into the CEO and LPI position as of July 1, 2026. We will definitely have some challenges to navigate with that process, but I'm working on transition plans for both those positions, the CEO, LPI, and for the collection clerk. And I'm really pleased that we're able to do this internal transition. And I just want to congratulate you for being outstanding enough that I said, well, this is a good fit. So, community services and programming, we expect the revised fairgrounds project to be approved by the end of February. We did get that feedback from the land and water conservation folks. And we also got permission to start any needed bid work for that project. We did have a little bit of a hiccup where there's some uncertainty around the National Guard, depending on what federal chaos unfolds. But we did hear from Land and Water Conservation that we have 3 to 5 years to complete the project in the event that the Guard gets deployed, to the Canadian border or something. But I think that we're starting to stabilize, and that situation hopefully will pass, and we will be back on track for a spring project. Let's see, the water district has provided an estimate to bring water supply under Church Road over to the fairgrounds property. That's $25,000 estimated. But they have a vote scheduled because it is a kind of a separate entity. But that'll be a fantastic use of funds, I think, from their surplus, and certainly will benefit us. So we would greatly appreciate that if it happens. I met with Hannah and Jen to follow up on the discussion that we've been having around spring sports and how to best handle our relationship with the Marinacook Calripken League, which is kind of an intermediary between the kind of individual teams and groups that are playing and the town of Readfield. And we came to some really good understandings, and we'll be working on a document that'll include language around field use and codes of conduct and all of that stuff. And we will kind of formalize that relationship, and that's going to be a great help to ensuring that the kids get a positive experience, at least our kids in Readfield Rec. So that's the goal. The Age Friendly Committee and Jen are again preparing for the Readfield U in March, and they have a lot scheduled. I think she touched on some of those things in her report, but they've been doing a lot, and Age Friendly deserves some credit for once again putting a tremendous amount of effort in to pull that together with some staff help. And I want to say the Robert Burns Night potluck was pretty fantastic. That was put on by the library. We had this room full of food and people and some good music, and it was really enjoyable to attend. Also, I wanted to highlight the main show game show put on by Readfield Radio volunteers. That was this past Saturday evening. And it's those type of events that I think are really indicative of the type of community we have. It's good to see people just doing stuff. Not going to have 100 people there. You might have 15, you might have 50, but it was a great thing to see. Moving on to roads, maintenance, and infrastructure. Snow removal from recent storms has taken a toll on mailboxes, and the contractor's been busy fixing those as well as knocking back the tall banks. That was a really hard storm for everybody, but the plow contractor, Scott Horn, has been doing everything he can to keep up, despite some physical stuff that he's been going through. He was making phone calls as soon as he was out of the hospital bed, I think. So anyway, he was pretty well committed. And we appreciate that. We received 4 proposals for the winter road maintenance contract. Transportation Committee will meet to review those and make a recommendation this week. That'll be on Thursday evening, excuse me. And then the select board will hear those recommendations and work to, basically to make a final decision on the 23rd. So that process went well, and that was one of those select board goals. So I think that we came pretty close. We got some good information and some good numbers. After several seasons with the snow thrower, it was the only snow removal implement on the skid steer. We are going to be purchasing an adjustable plow blade for that. That will reduce the wear on the snow thrower, which is a much more expensive piece of equipment. And with the smaller storms, it will also allow us to just better clear the little bit of material that's on the road and allow for quicker melting in normal years. Not this year probably, but so the cost of that'll be around $6,600, but it'll also have use at the transfer station and for road projects, potholes, and some grading, light duty stuff if we need it. The recent extreme cold has impacted the recycling compactor at the transfer station. That's caused intermittent operational issues, and I do want to apologize. Those weren't always communicated fully, so some folks were disappointed they weren't able to drop off that material. But we have taken several steps to correct that issue. We now have a magnetic basic, like a thermal heater as a supplement. We've also double or triple wrapped those things, the hydraulic reservoirs in both of our compactors with some flexible insulation. So I think that that's going to keep us in good stead. And if we have failures, it probably won't be because of the cold. Let's see, Kennebec County EMA is starting a planning process for their hazard mitigation plan update. And we're going to be engaging with that. We had done this like 5 or 6 years ago, but it's time again. And that's tied to federal funding and all that. So we have an obligation to be involved. Technology and communications, we're continuing to navigate through the Google Workspace transition. A lot of time is invested in that. And the technology can be challenging to use because it is different enough from the standard Google products for most people that it can be tricky, but we're learning as we go, myself and the boards and committees. And I do want to thank everybody involved for their patience, from staff, volunteers, to the select board. Everybody's learning, and so we'll get there. We'll get there. And then I wanted to just wrap up and say that Matt and I are still continuing to look at different improved security systems for the town office and other buildings. It's been a challenge. There's not a lot of providers out there. Some of the equipment that's related to the cloud-based stuff is quite expensive. But we're gonna have to pull together some numbers and decide if it's worth it or not to do, to have that functionality. But regardless, lots going on, and that wraps up my report.
And I'm handing it right back to you for the treasurer's report.
All right, yeah, no problem. So this was quite a bit shorter. January was a slow month, but we did complete the reconciliation through January, and our accounts are in balance. There were no unusual items or activity. The budget process is moving along quite well now. We're in the middle of it. We have had 2 meetings. The third meeting with the budget committee to review departments will be on February, it says January, it should be February 21st. Or excuse me, no, it was. The second one was January 21st. The next one is on February 11th. So that's this Wednesday evening, 6:30 here at the town office. We'll be talking about some of the bigger items, capital reserves, fire department, solid waste, roads, and maintenance. So those type of things will be on there. If I didn't mention fire department, that's also on there. I will note that we're having some challenging situations starting around dispatch for, this time it's the county that we're gonna have to sort through, but I'll touch more on that later in the discussion around budget. The audit is moving along well. I did talk with them last week, and they said that we should have it by the end of February. So that's very promising to have a draft at that point, because it gives us the numbers we need to make reliable estimates for reserve balances and all of those things that we need to be aware of in budgeting. Moving on to comments, I'll just say the report covers the month of January. Revenue and expenses should be around 58%. But we have a trend this month. Everything is down for the month, almost to everything as far as revenue goes. But we're still up for the year to date. So we've had a good year, but the cold, I believe, is what has kind of driven this backwards. People aren't out buying cars. They're not registering their cars. They don't want to come to the town office. They don't want to go to the transfer station. Revenues are down 43% at the transfer station compared to this time last year. So that cold, it really is hitting. So I expect things will normalize in February. We'll probably see a really good February. And then those year-to-date numbers will get back to where we expect them to be. But other than that, everything's really pretty well in place. I didn't see anything unusual in the detail reports, and happy to take any questions.
Anybody else? Thank you, Eric. We'll give you a break for a minute.
Yeah, sounds great.
Community service updates. I know Jen was unable to be here, but gave us a long, lengthy, detailed report. Thank you for that. Melissa, are you going to give us an update? Thank you.
So Melissa Small, the library director at Readfield Community Library. First, I just want to take a moment to remember Jan Tarbuck, who passed away last week. Jan was a former English instructor and a lover of literature. She was a huge library supporter, and she served as a member of our library board of trustees for 6.5 years, from 2014 to 2021. And in addition to her work on the board, she was part of the library book group. She organized our library Guess the Weight of the Pumpkin contest each October. And she brought us some beautiful quilts crafted by local people who are part of the Loose Threads Quilters group to hang on the library walls. And we will really miss Jan, her creative ideas and her dedication to the library. Just a little story to share. Last week, we had someone new to town come into the library to get a library card, which is not an unusual thing, but the cool thing was that he mentioned that in talking with his new neighbor, the neighbor said the first thing he should do was go to the library, which I just thought was the coolest thing. And I just want to echo what Eric said earlier, that I think with the events that happen with the town, with our new radio station, with community programming, recreation, there's just so much going on, and I think people are really excited about that, and so much that they'll tell their neighbor, go to the library, find out what's going on in town. And I do think that it makes people really interested in living here. And people from other towns say, geez, I wish we had so much going on like they do in Readfield. So I echo what Eric said earlier. So whether you're new to town or you've lived here many years, we welcome you to establish or reestablish your connection to the library. We get people who are brand new, and we get people who have lived here many years and they're just coming in for their first library card. So we welcome all ages, all types. We offer lots more than books, and we hope you'll come in often. So I do want to tell everybody about a new program that we have that has finally started up called the Community Gear Library. So this is a really exciting partnership between the Steve DeAngelis Community Fund and our library, the Dr. Shaw Memorial Library in Mount Vernon, the Underwood Memorial Library in Fayette, and the Carey Memorial Library in Wayne. So that we're now in our second month of this program. So basically, the Steve DeAngelis Community Fund has this giant trailer full of gear. So currently it's full of Nordic skis, poles, and boots, snowshoes, ice skates, and ice fishing traps. In the spring, there'll also be bikes and fishing poles. This trailer full of gear rotates through those area libraries every Saturday morning from 9 through 12. I should rephrase that. So it goes to one of the 4 libraries each Saturday morning. So every second Saturday, it's supposed to be at our library. Every third Saturday, it's in Wayne, and so on. And Steve's volunteers staff the gear trailer. They're available to help people choose their gear, get the right size and fit. And the first time we had it in Readfield, we had 15 gear library card holders on the first day, which was really exciting. So we've already had gear going out, gear coming back in. And basically anybody from any of the 4 Maranacook area towns plus Fayette can go to any one of those 4 libraries to check out gear on a Saturday morning. If the gear trailer is there on that Saturday morning, and the gear can be returned to any one of the 4 libraries at any time that they're open. So this is really just a great new asset for our community. It's great for families who have kids whose sizes change a lot and they don't want to keep buying new gear with bigger sizes. It's also great for adults who are thinking of, oh, maybe I want to take up cross-country skiing, but I don't want to spend the money on the gear. They can test it out, see if they like it, check it out on our awesome trails in town. For grandparents who have grandkids visiting from out of town, they can check out some snowshoes, ice fishing traps, do local fun stuff. It's really an awesome new program. It is absolutely free. People can check out gear for up to 1 month, and it's just really great. And hopefully people will, it just promotes gear sharing. It promotes active enjoyment of our wonderful Maine outdoors in all seasons. So any questions on that, because it is brand new? So okay, so that's up and going, and that's my biggest thing. I just wanted to let everybody know that we had a wonderful tree lighting in December, thanks to a lot of groups in town who helped out with that. A great Hanukkah event. We had 2 full moon snowshoe hikes this winter so far. We had 40 people at the first one in January, which was amazing. And with Readfield Rec, we co-hosted a puzzle race and pizza event where we had 10 teams of 4 people all racing to build the same puzzle. The winning team did it in 17 minutes, and we're going to do this again during Readfield U. It was really fun. Burns Night, as Eric mentioned, was a huge success thanks to a lot of local people who pulled that together. It was a great night of Scottish music, food, and poetry. And we just hosted our annual Take Your Child to the Library Day, and lots of cool things coming up that we're partnering with in March for Readfield U. And just one I want to highlight is called The Recipe for Being a Great Coach. We have a Maine Baseball Hall of Famer, coach and author Matt Rogers, who's coming to be in conversation with our very own Readfield Rec Chair, Hannah Flannery, and they're gonna talk about his new book, which is called The Recipe for Being a Great Coach. So if you are a coach, know someone who coaches a team at any level, leads a team in business, or is simply a sports fan, this will be a really great evening. So we hope you can join us for that. And I think that's all. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And age friendly, do we have an update from the age friendly committee?
Nope, nothing from them.
Okay, nothing from them. So moving along to boards, committees, commissions, and departments. We got minutes from the age friendly committee, budget committee, conservation committee, library, planning board, and trails committee. Thank you for those.
Dave, I will add though, with the age-friendly stuff, the full schedule is going to be available on the town website, but it's also in Jen's report for this meeting. If anybody wants to look at that, all those events are listed out in her report. So, and there's a lot.
Yeah, there's quite a long list, a whole page of them, a page and a half, I think. Yeah, great. Okay. Public communications. Now is the time for anybody in the public to address the board.
Eric Winter, do you need to know anything else?
No.
I live here. Oh. I've noticed that there's a big blue trailer, which I think belongs to the rec board at the old entrance to the dump. Is that correct?
Yep.
Is there any chance that that could be painted a quieter color?
I'm not opposed to it, but I'll turn that over to Eric.
This is I want to make this a humble request. I think I'm the only one that looks at it.
Yeah, well, you are right across the street.
Just, if you decided it's in the town's interest to paint it a quieter color, I'd be grateful. But
Well, I'll talk to the maintenance about it. I think we could find a nice Park Service brown to maybe subdue it a little.
Something to blend in a little better than bright blue.
well, that'd be great. Or plant bushes in front.
That's the way it came from the international shipping company that we got it from secondhand. So, yeah, but we're happy to take a look at that.
I also want to echo some of the comments I heard about how many wonderful people we have in this town who do so much for it. I'm grateful for that. I hope you will find someone as helpful and smart and as cheerful as Angelica is to take her place. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Anybody else? I'm not sure if we have anybody online.
There it is not.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Make sure I didn't miss anybody. Okay, moving along to appointments, reappointments. Item number 25056, consider the resignation of Roland Cody from the Transportation Committee.
Do you need a motion for that?
Well, I'd like to say this is a big loss really for us at Roland. I don't know how many years of service and knowledge he's given to this town, and we'll surely miss him.
Yeah, I want to echo that and say that when I first started with the town, one of the first projects I got into was the Myrna Cook Lake Outlet Dam, and the road committee was instrumental in helping with that, indirectly, because Roland heard what we were doing and he got really interested. He'd done similar work for DOT, and so he was our on-site kind of field agent and checked in weekly, if not daily, while that project was going on, and really stepped up to ensure that we were getting the quality and the deliverables we needed. And the dam project is not simple. A lot of things can go wrong, and some things.
It's a damn project.
It was a damn project, yeah. And some things did go wrong, but he was right there, working with the contractor, and it was just amazing. And he hasn't stopped. I mean, he's been on that road committee since then, so I will definitely miss him as well, and he has contributed a tremendous amount, as Dave said. So,
Unfortunately, I don't think we can deny his request, so I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the resignation of Roland Cody from the Transportation Committee.
second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. On to item number 26057, acknowledge a vacancy on the Transportation Committee and recognize the service of Bill Drake. What we have do we have any, we don't have any applications for that, correct?
No, this is just, well, twofold to notify that there is a vacancy on the Transportation Committee because of Bill's passing. And just, I wanted to say that I really appreciated Bill. He was very passionate about what he did, regardless of what it was with the town. I didn't always agree with him, but that was good, I think, in a lot of ways. And so he was on the Transportation Committee for, since April, and contributed a lot while he was on there. He was one of the drivers behind that change in focus and the change in the title. So anyway, he was an all-around great guy, and really sorry for the loss that Flo and his family has had to deal with.
And quite unexpected too, as well, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
Sorry to hear. Thank you, Bill, if you can hear us. Moving to item number 26058, consider the appointment of Ingrid Jensen to the Cemetery Committee.
I do always go over there.
Sure, you come to the podium so we can grill you.
Yeah, hi, so I'm Ingrid Jensen, I live up on Old Stage Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was approached at the Radical Cafe about the genetic vacancy. And since I've been a nurse for many years, I'm very interested in death and dying and taking good care of people after that happens and showing them respect and stuff. So I said, well, that sounds like something I'd find interesting.
Sounds great.
So
Thank you for applying. We'd love to have you.
thank you.
Ingrid is a very generous and caring person, so I think she's a great fit for the committee.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we appoint Ingrid Jensen to the Cemetery Committee.
Second.
Is it immediately?
Just
be
immediately.
Okay,
Yep.
effective immediately.
A motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Ingrid. On to old business. Item 26048, discuss the second fiscal year 27 budget draft and review debt and savings options. And to you there.
All right. So I've included in the packet I've included in the packet the summary sheets that we typically look at. And really, there hasn't been a tremendous amount of change since we last met in January. I did, one of the big changes, though, that I want to highlight before we start the discussion is I did go back and look at property values because it's been probably 5 or 6 years since I did a real thorough analysis of housing prices. And I guess what I use, there's lots of different ways to look at the cost of taxation, right? But one of the tools I like to look at, and I think the board finds helpful, is the value of a homestead, which is basically someone who lives here year round, has land and has a building. So what I do is I go through and find, capture all of those properties through a report in our accounting software, and then do some fine tuning. I might pull out the stuff that is unusually low or unusually high because that might be some kind of CMP structure. We try to normalize the data and then pull out basically some information from it. And the two biggest pieces that we look at are the median and the mean or the average home value. And so I did that exercise again, and it turned out that we've been just kind of kept rolling along and kind of escalating the median or the average, excuse me, over the past few years. And it turns out we were a little bit high, maybe like 10%. So not a lot, but enough to be noticeable. And so I did revise those numbers. And that's important in calculating tax impact. So we can say, well, for an average property, here's what the tax impact might be. And we'll talk more about that later. But that was a very interesting and useful exercise for me. And that's reflected in the, towards the end of this item, there's a listing of what the impacts will be with the current mill rate. And we adjust that every time we revise the schedule because it's automatic populated. But with the town of Readfield mill rate, we were just around 2 mills last time we talked, and we're still right around 2 mills for the town of Readfield piece of that. Overall, the total mill rate was 11.58. I will say that that did not include the recent change from the RSU. Their estimate has gone from 5.3% to somewhere between 12 and 15% due to a change in school funding formula. I think we were all hoping it wouldn't happen, but it happened, and it happened real good.
Yeah.
They're struggling, and they're going to have to make some cuts. Whether or not they can make enough to get down to a single-digit increase, I don't know. But I knew that they're being very diligent about it and doing everything they can. But again, we try to focus just on as much as we can on the town of Readfield impacts. And I did go through this again, and I made a few small changes, but really, I just want to point out that there's very little change. Right now, we're looking at around a 7.8% increase in what the town of Readfield tax obligation would be, which is around $60 for an average household. So not a huge impact, but also more than I'd like to see. I think we always like to see, somewhere between 3 and 5%, keep pace with inflation and wage increases and all that. But we do have a few things to keep an eye on. And I guess before I get into that, I'll ask if the board has any general questions about any of the documentation that was put out, or any areas you'd like me to focus on.
I don't specifically.
I just have one question. Do you know why the funding for school went down? Is it pupil count or?
A combination of two things. We're becoming a more overall wealthier area of the state as opposed to other areas. So our real estate values have gone up more than other areas. And then enrollment. Yeah. So, but I think that they were looking at a modest impact, but the impact was the tune of $700-something thousand, I think is what Sean said. The difference was between what they had projected and what we actually are being presented with.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
It's a big hit.
Yeah.
I think that does help speed along the discussion around school consolidation, for better or worse. But it's going to be a challenge. So I guess I'm grateful that we're not having that degree of impact that they are. So I'll just note the fact that we did have the RFP for winter roads maintenance come in. They were actually, some of them, they were similar to what we are paying currently. The low proposal was a little bit less. And then there were a couple that were, one that was almost identical and one that was a little bit more, and one that was pretty far up. But overall, I can't argue too much with the results. But what that says is that we will be able to stabilize our costs. And I believe that a flat budget in that area is actually going to be attainable. So that'll be a positive for us, because it's a $400,000 contract by the time it's said and done. So a small difference there makes a healthy impact on the budget. The other item that I wanted to point out that's been kind of developing, two things. One is the county budget, which Catherine talked about a little bit. But we also have a bit of an anomaly around that, where the sheriff's office is looking to change their dispatch services from the state police center in Augusta to the city of Augusta. And there's lots of reasons for it. I'll be doing more work on that, and probably working with Jaron and Catherine to try to better understand that. But long story short is, depending on what is involved and how it shakes up, it could be anything from $0 to $15,000 to $30,000 of increase over what we're paying currently. But it's murky, and we're trying to sort that one out. But we do have a little bit of a buffer in there, because we budgeted conservatively the last couple of years. So we have maybe $5,000 of wiggle room with the current budget. But I guess what I'm getting at is, in the best case scenario, nothing changes. In the middle case scenario, we're going to have to add $10,000 to $15,000 to that budget just to catch up with what we will be billed by the county or the sheriff's office, which is kind of perverse. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly how the county can bill us individually for services they provide as a county. And so there's some stuff there we got to sort through too. But regardless, that's one item that could have a fairly big impact. And what I had done also with the budget, big picture stuff, is I had never really done a full assessment of what the impacts were of borrowing in a way that's more understandable. And so what I did is I put together a couple of tables, and these look fairly simple, but there was quite a bit of work that went into them, and trying to do some calculations. But two schedules here. One is for the approximate cost of borrowing. So what this does is give the board or the public the ability, and these are towards the end of that document, the ability to look at what does a bond for 10, 15, 20, 25 years look like with current rates. And generally speaking, we go with main bond bank rates because they're the lowest around. And they're pretty consistent between 10, 15, 20, 25. Every time you go up 5 or 10 years, the rate increases. We're out of that reverse yield situation where for a while there, shorter term bonding was costing more than longer term or the middle term, but that's now gone away. We're back to a standard curve, and so what I have done is shown, well, what does it cost to borrow a fixed amount of money over a certain period of time, and so the table that I put forward is for $100,000 in borrowing, and you can see that, for a 10-year bond, it's about $12,000 a year for the annual cost. And then going down all the way to a 5-year, it's $21,000 a year. So, and you can see the principal and interest, and you can kind of get an idea of what that actual cost is. And the board asked for this in a few different contexts. One was in the context of salt sand shed project, which is, I hope, still a few years out. I think we're all on the same page on that. And also the idea of what we might do for recreation at the beach and some of the infrastructure needs there. So those were a couple things, but really anything that adds $10,000 to the budget, we can now show what it would cost to taxpayers, to the average taxpayer. That's what that second table does. You can look and say, well, if I have $10,000 that I need to add to the tax bill because there's not, or tax rolls because there's not offsetting revenue, we can show what the actual dollar impact will be for homes in different tiers. And I broke it up by percentiles. So, the bottom rate at the bottom quarter, the middle, the average, and then the 75th percentile getting towards the higher end of the scale. And so I wanted to note also there that the 50th percentile is below the average. So what that means is if you lined up every house in Readfield, and if the average was the same as the median, you would basically, for every time you went from one house to the next, you would have an even increase in value. But what we're seeing, and seeing more exaggerated in town over the past 10 years or so, is that the property at the higher end of the market is increasing in value proportionally more than the stuff at the lower end. And that's just something for you guys to be aware of, that's a trend that's happening in Readfield. It's what's happening in Maine generally. And it's part of the reason why we're paying more in school expenses, because the state recognizes that and said, hey, you guys got more money, so they're going to come after us. But anyway, the impact of $10,000 for an average home is about $7 a year. So basically what that means is if we have to somehow add $10,000, that means that the average tax bill is going to go up $7. So that's pretty good information to have, I think. And I hope it's valuable for you. I'm sure we'll go back to it and discuss it more in other contexts. But I just wanted to point that out. And if you have any questions on either of those tables, I'll stop right now and let you get into it.
I very specifically asked Eric for this, and I think it's very well presented, very clear and concise. It's exactly what I asked for, and I think will definitely help guide some of our future discussions.
Yeah, I think that's a great tool.
Yeah.
Good way to see.
And it's linked too. So if we wanted to say we want to do a 7-year bond for 12%, we can calculate that. And it's also linked to the town mill rate, which is how we calculate that value. So next year we can use the same information and just update a few numbers, and it'll be there as a tool. So I guess overall, our picture as a municipality is looking okay. Again, I wish we could keep that rate increase lower, but at this point, I think we're probably as low as it's going to be, unless we start making some sizable cuts in areas that, well, it'd be hard to find, I think. But we know of a few areas that we might have to look at, and that's it for the budget from my perspective.
Okay, thank you, Eric.
Yep.
All right, moving on to item 26059, considering municipal fees.
All right, so every couple of years we update different fee schedules. And what I wanted to do was try to get a bit of scope for the select board and also make a couple of requests. So I asked Angelica to kind of look at some of our key fee areas because one of the things we do is try to balance user fees with tax fees. And a lot of the fees we collect are not negotiable. The state of Maine establishes, the price for dog licenses, the penalty for being late. They establish the cost of excise tax and who it applies to and how it can be collected, all of that. And those fees make up a majority of our revenue. But we do have also some control over a few other areas that can be used either to generate revenue or as policy tools. So if we want to encourage some kind of activities, we can lower the fees. If we want to maybe discourage it, we can increase them. Or if we want to get more money for a certain area because we see we're losing money, we can do that. So and I want to thank Angelica for her work in pulling a bunch of this stuff together, gives a rough idea of where some of the basic fees are coming from, what they look like. And then the other thing I wanted to ask the board was about the land use ordinance. And one of the things that I try to slowly work away at is if we're able to pull fees out of ordinances, it makes it a lot easier for the select board to be nimble and adjusting those fees. So for example, we often should be and want to update transfer station fees every couple of years, because that changes pretty dynamically depending on waste streams and all those things. So I do have proposals for changes here, but if that was included in an ordinance, we'd have to take it back to town meeting. It gets to be quite cumbersome to make those changes. So one thing I would like to do is just prime the select board with the idea that I'd like to be pulling the fees that are established in the land use ordinance and the appeals board ordinance out, so that the board can have more discretion over how those are managed. Because we've seen real estate prices double in the past 5 years effectively, but our fees have not. And that's, I think, in part a conscious decision. We did adjust those 2 years ago, some of them, but others are fixed in the contract or in the ordinance. So I'd like the board to consider what fees you want to look at, and also that request that we pull those fees out of the ordinance to make it easier to be adjusted. So that's a general statement. Any feedback on any of that before I go on?
I think most of them covering that cost, all right?
I think some are, most are. I'd say that our land use fees and code fees are still fairly low relative to where they were or where they ought to be to cover the costs of that service. Not that I want to, push too hard on it, but I think those are worth looking at, and I'd like to look at those a little bit more closely. And do so with Angelica as she's getting into the position also, just to see if it makes sense given her perspective on it. But outside of that, the transfer station fees, I did include a schedule and I highlighted the changes I'm looking at for that one. A couple of areas that we want to address are kind of miscellaneous items coming in. We had done $3 a piece, but we're looking at $5. The tenants can always charge less if something is really small, and they can just say, we'll just toss it in the bin. But that's one area where there's a little bit of confusion, and we had things like faxes and printers, which oftentimes weigh more than the TVs, being charged less, and we get charged by the pound for those items. So that one I think makes sense. And then the big ones are tires. We've got a situation where people have been trying to bring tires into the transfer station because we charge $1 less for an average car tire than one of the really the only company that comes and collects them. And so I think that it makes sense for us to be on par with what they're charging, just so we can cover our costs and not encourage us to be that place where people take their
We don't need
tires.
to be in the tire business.
Yeah, we don't need to be. We don't need to be doing that. Anyway, so this is going to be brought up with the solid waste committee Wednesday evening when they have their meeting, and this stuff's all going to be kind of coming back. I just wanted to prime the board on some of the changes, and then we have listed some of the other schedules. Building fee, like I said, was 2023, and then our town office fees for printer copies and things. That needs to be updated. The last time it was adjusted was 2014. The numbers have been okay. We're still making money on this stuff, but I think some things need to be removed. For example, the commitment book and land use ordinance. Those are readily available online, and anybody can take them to a printer and print all 300 pages if they want. There's no reason we should have to do that. So.
I was going to ask about the CD copy of meetings, how frequently you've done.
Yeah, I actually never had one. Never had one.
Never. You might want to consider striking that one, and
Yeah.
the website needs to be updated as well.
Yeah, it does. It does. But so anyway, I think that what I'd like to do, and this is one of my goals from like 10 years ago when I started, was to try to get the fees in one spot so we can look at them even just on a cursory level annually and say, hey, does this look right? Bring in the relevant boards and committees, have them have a say, and then bring all that stuff to the select board and say, here's what we'd like to do. And do it in conjunction with the budget process. So this is kind of a first pass at that. Excuse me, I'm sorry. But anyway, sorry about that. I usually turn these things off. All right.
I pull mine out of my case and it switches it back on. So I gotta check it every time.
Oh, geez, yeah, that's actually a good way to do it.
Yeah.
I like that. And then, so the Guile Hall rental agreement, that one definitely needs updating. Our fees are about a quarter of what a comparable facility would be.
Well, I noticed that. Like we said, cheap.
Yeah, it is, and when we need to work on some of the language too around, the use and the whether or not there's a refundable cleaning fee. Some of that stuff just doesn't really make sense anymore because we have to clean it pretty much every time, no matter how good people are. So anyway, I want to work on that one as a priority as well. And Teresa and Kristen had done a bunch of work on that probably 2 years ago. The last time I said, hey, that looks funny, but we never got around to fixing it. So. Yeah, and then Angelica mentioned some beach use fees and things like that, but that's really it. It was kind of a primer. Nothing for action tonight.
I think that's a good idea, putting all the fees in one list so you don't have to dig for them, so you can assess them.
Yeah.
Pretty easily year to year.
We did that in Shabig and it worked quite well. The board was really happy because even if they didn't look at it, they knew exactly where it was, right? So.
I did notice it says that the bathroom here is ADA compliant, but I do wonder about the approach in the door to it. Well, that would be something you would know a lot more about than I would.
So I think that probably refers to the downstairs bathroom. The upstairs one I don't believe is ADA compliant. I think we've done our best under the circumstances, doesn't make it compliant, it makes it,
Better.
better and not subject to litigation, but, you know, it's still not fully ADA compliant, no question.
Very good. Any other questions, comments? Moving along, item 26060, consider a recycling contract with Eco Maine.
Yes, so our current contract for recycling has expired. And just like everybody else, they're not gonna let us go without a fee increase. And so this one is a little bit harder to parse out because we have a two-part contract. We do get money back from them in certain cases. What they're doing is changing the formula, so it's a little bit harder for us to get money back from them. So now there's a threshold, whereas before it used to be that if they made any money, we would get a percentage of it. Now it has to hit $10 a ton before we start getting money back. So that's a little bit harder to figure out what's going on there. The easier thing to figure out was the change in the per ton cost. And I believe that was, it was either 12 or 15%. It wasn't a small amount. But what they have offered is a discount if we sign up early, you know, $19.99 if you order now, kind of thing. But in the end, they're really the only game in town, and we've had a long, good relationship with Eco Maine. I don't like the price increase. A little bit disappointed in the approach they've taken, which is effectively to say, well, we know the towns are going to start getting money from the state of Maine through the EPR program, which is Extended Product Responsibility. Folks that don't have recyclable packaging are paying into a pool. That money is then going to be distributed back to municipalities who recycle like us. So we will be getting money from that. They know that, and they've kind of said, well, we know you're gonna get that money, so we're gonna capture some of that before it gets to you, or effectively before it gets to you. So their rates are going up. And I'm not surprised. I mean, we did have a pretty good deal for a while. But my recommendation is that we proceed with this contract. It could be better, but I tried to negotiate, and they said, well, this is what we're offering. So.
And like you said, I mean, that's kind of the only game in town. It's, you don't really have a lot of negotiating options when they're the only one.
Yeah, we really don't. And I think the recycling has been shown to be either neutral or a value for us. And I think the next, the term of this contract, 5 years, will give us enough time to really better understand what the EPR program is going to look like and what it's going to do for municipalities and for the recycling world in general. I think that it's going to increase recycling rates, but it's also going to increase the number of municipalities that are recycling, which in turn dilutes the pool of revenue, right? So it'll be an interesting couple of years, but I don't need to get into details on that, and I'll just say I appreciate a motion to approve the contract.
They do recycle all numbers of plastic.
Yes, 1 through 7. Yeah.
Some local towns, you can only recycle number 2 now.
Yeah, and a lot of those towns are the ones that are bailing it themselves and sending it off and chasing the markets. And sometimes they end up paying to send that stuff off quite a bit, just like we do. It's an interesting market.
No more questions, I'll take a motion.
I would move that we approve the recycling contract with Domain as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second, any more discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Great, thank you. I'll get that done and we'll lock in our low rate.
Yeah.
Readfield transfer station commercial haulers permits. So I did kind of tuck those together. We have just 2. I included the letter that we sent out, and this is actually one of the fees we probably want to look at because $100 isn't really a lot for access to our facility. There are quite a few impacts that happen with that, but regardless, we have 2 contractors that we've dealt with in the past who have submitted complete proposals for their ability to utilize our facility. The criteria include having insurance that we can verify, having a recycling plan, and paying the $100 fee. So both Ryan Galouche and James Simmons of Simmons Trucking have completed those requirements, and their cover sheets are included with the packet. If the board would like to look at the full submittals, I have them, but it's really not very interesting reading. So I'm happy to take a motion on that if anybody wants to.
I would move that we approve the commercial hauler permits as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Great, thank you very much.
Moving on to item 26062, review of pending real estate foreclosure and process.
All right. So this is something that we unfortunately have an obligation to do. People say, well, why do you have to do property liens? Why do you have to do foreclosure? It is a state mandate. It's state law. And I'm glad it's there. It's a bit of a burden, but I'm glad it's there because it is just a guarantee that municipalities collect the revenues that are assessed to properties. And there are lots of ways to address taxation if people feel that it's unfair. We have the assessor, we have ways to look at the value of a property, and there are tax relief programs out there as well. But unfortunately, even with all of those resources available, sometimes people just aren't able or willing to pay their property taxes. And so every year we start with a list of 2 or 3 dozen folks who we have to send a lien notice to saying, well, you haven't paid for 3 years. If you don't pay what you owe plus the penalties and interest, then we have the right and the obligation to acquire your property. State law recently changed around this. We have a whole ordinance in place. And when I mentioned progress in the agenda, or process in the agenda, what I was referring to really was that ordinance, because that outlines exactly how all of this stuff happens and what recourse the town has, whatever situation we find ourselves in. The goal is always to help people keep their property. And I want to thank Kristen and the office staff for the work they've done and do every single year to help people keep their properties. We go door to door. We ask, what can we do to help? We make recommendations on different tools folks could use, different resources they can use, and try to be as flexible and as accommodating as we can. And every year, unfortunately, we have some of the same people on the list. This year's list, we're down to, I think we had 8 or 9 when I printed this off at Friday. And since then, we have two, I believe, that have been
So we're getting there.
yeah, we definitely are. And Kristen, again, does calls, and, we like I said, we go to people's houses and try to help them. So I believe that the list you have in front of you will be down to 0 by this Friday when the deadline hits. And I just wanted to take some time to explain the process in case the board or the public had questions, and say that I do feel confident that we won't be acquiring any property this year, which is great. We haven't had to do that for 8 or so years. So
Good news.
Yep.
Because we certainly don't want to acquire property.
no, we don't. No, we don't.
So these are taxes from 2023?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, next Friday. Thank you. Great. Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah, it was the Friday before that. We were thinking about how terrible that was, but it is terrible. But anyway, it's an unpleasant process, but one we have to pursue.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
And I think that's almost to the end. Upcoming meetings and future agenda items. Anybody have anything? I think our next meeting is the 23rd. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I don't know if my schedule is
That's correct.
So, I think that's it. Unless somebody has something else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous.
All right, thank you, Dave, well done.
Thank you.
That was
How's
efficient.
But efficient, yeah.